Warm welcome to all of us here. Sorry for a little bit this thing. We are so used to the zeros and ones and we are all flowing in zeros and ones. So I can't sit and give this session. Sorry for that. Moving ahead with the session, everything is going digital, right? From Paytm to Google Pay to cashless economy, we're moving rapidly towards the digital area, and so are our fraudsters. The fraudsters are also innovating with their ideas, and that's where we come in. So what is it that how and what we do is going to help you as a forensic examiner, or where do we as an IT specialist or a forensic specialists come in? What is it that we do? And what is it that we kind of, the do's, don'ts, or how is it that you can help us retain the digital evidence? That is what we'll be discussing today. Now, this entire discussion will be kept to at max the non-technicalities, and I'll be taking you all through varied case studies whereby it's easy for us to understand what we do. So in case if there's any questions, do let us know. The very first I'll be beginning is with a case study. The TJX Heartland breach. Now this itself is, a decade-old case. I wouldn't say it's a recent case, but it covers up the entire digital forensics in one case altogether. So what is this? How and what did the perpetrator do that made it to the lines, I would say? He stole more than 200 million card numbers. Now, we all use cards, be it debit or credit. Oops, sorry. We all use cards. Everything in the card is predictable. 16-digit card number, 3 digits CVV, 4 digits of your expiration date. Yeah, do you need anything else for carrying out a transaction? OTP now, and that is only within the geographical boundary of our nation. The moment you cross our boundary, OTP is of no use. It is void. It does not work. Any of your .com web applications which are hosted outside India, and you allow them to store your card information, they, along with the CVV, store this information. And if you're subscribing, auto renewal happens. So one fine morning, you might get a shocker saying something like, so much of the amount has been credited from your account because you've subscribed for so-and-so utility. So OTP is only over here valid, and that too, of late, the regulations have been mandated that you need to use a chip-based card. But beyond India, OTP is not a valid option. They do not use OTPs at all, or there is not even a Visa verified or MasterCard verified password. There is no second layer of authentication at all. So all a perpetrator would need is the card information, which is very much present in the behind black strip, which is the magnetic strip of your card. Now this gentleman stole more than 200 million card numbers. And from whom did he steal? He stole it from retail chain stores. We all go to Big Bazaar, right? Monthly visit or weekly visit hoti hai hamari. At the end of the visit, what is it that we do? When we come to the cashier, swipe the card. How many times did the cashier swipe the card? 1 or twice? 1 or 2 times? Come on, I can't just be doing the speaking. Once, a lot of places, do they swipe 2 times? One onto the POS where the slip comes in and one onto their monitor, the screen. Now why do they swipe it onto the screen? Very true, sir, to take the data, but where are they taking this data to? They're taking this data to their billing system. Even the POS these days is connected to their billing system, so hence when you get the bill, you will often see the first 4 and the last 4 digits of your card. अभी कार्ड तो मॉनिटर पे स्वाइप नहीं किया, पॉस में डाला था हमने, ओटीपी भी डाली, फिर भी वो इनवॉइस पे कहाँ से आया? It goes through their bill system. So when you do the audit, you guys also verify, that okay, this much transactions has happened and this much of the card transaction and this much of cash sales has happened. How is it that you're also getting that data? Right? So the POS is linked to their billing system, which is physically present in that facility. कभी देखा है for IT personnel only, a door which says that for authorized personnel only whenever we go to these stores? वो दरवाजे के पीछे क्या होता है? What is happening behind that door? I wouldn't say that. It's the processing, the server, like someone said, very true. It's the servers that are there behind those doors. So if someone wants to intercept the data, they very much can do it by physically being present at that facility, which is what our person did. He would go to these stores, analyze and study how the POS system is working. 2 ways of transmitting data, either through a wired network or a wireless network, right? Now everything is going wireless. So these stores had also gone wireless. So he would analyze whether the traffic or the data that we say is going through wired network or a wireless network, and based on that would intercept the data. That was his phase 1. Physically go to store, analyze, go to the parking lot and break into the Wi-Fi of that store and collect 1643 digits. What was that? Card number, CVV and expiration date. Collect that data, store it. 3 retail stores, Hannaford, 7-Eleven, TJX, and 1 payment aggregator. What is a payment aggregator? Okay, kind of. But aggregator, payment gateway typically collects the information pertaining to 1 or 2 certain banks. Aggregator is behind the payment gateway and does the settlement for banks as well as the merchants. So that's the aggregator. In simple terms or in the layman language, I would say payment aggregator is the father of payment gateway. So as far as I as a hacker is concerned, I will get much more information on the aggregator as compared to the gateway. Clear? Yeah. So he attacked this aggregator, which was Heartland Payment Systems. Phase 1. Phase 2, how many times or how much would he be able to go physically to these places and, buy something and sit in the parking lot for hours without being noticed? For how long would you think that would go on? With the concern that is coming up and was there even a decade back, CCTVs, somewhere or the other he would raise a red flag, and if not the CCTVs, physical surveillance. So he would have risen a red flag. A. B. While interacting with the cashier, he would expose his chehra, face. So he didn't want to take that risk. Risk was a bit high as compared to sitting in one room and compromising the virtual world. So that was his phase 2. He attacked the web applications of these stores. He put in a utility, he tweaked this application, which was intercepting or sniffing, as it is termed as, sniffing the card information and putting it onto his hard drive. Instead of that, now he reworked his program to sniff and put it onto his virtual servers, his cyberspace, as we come to term as. He had servers in 5 different locations: Latvia, Netherlands, Ukraine, New Jersey, California. Why 5? He could have easily done 1 or 2, no? Why 5? Data continuity. Backups. Okay. Still, but why 5? So much of contingency for what? Yeah, can we think of something? Why? Sorry? Okay, jurisdiction is one. That's why strategically he placed them in Ukraine, Netherlands and Latvia, where there are no cyber laws. In fact, in Netherlands, there is 9 out of our 10 attacks or hacks, as we term it as, end up in the hacking street in Netherlands. There is a street which is known as the hacking street, and IP or the digital trail falls off there. And thanks to the owners of, the land of law, we cannot do much because there is no law at all over there. So yeah, but why 5? He could have easily put it only in Netherlands or Latvia and Ukraine. Why 5? Okay, for different server, for a different attack, okay, that is one thought process. What else? Okay, so disperse the information. Okay, fine. What else? Sorry? No, contingency is one, but yes, 5 contingency, that is too, too much. Why 5? He could have done it 2, 3 servers max, because replicating and any which ways he is going to contact his server and get the data offline. He's not going to be putting the data too much time for too longer time on the so-called cloud. Randomization. Imagine if from your phone, if there is only one number which is in the outgoing list, and over a certain period of time, you're contacting only to that one number, wouldn't it raise suspicion? Yes? But if that is mixed with those 5, picking up a pattern becomes difficult. Are we all okay for that? Game for it? So that was the reason he chose these 5. So more number of servers, more randomization he could do, longer period of time for him to go without any trace, without being traced. So even when people like us would come in for something known as log analysis, for us to gather that pattern of 5 servers would be difficult and time consuming. So for that, he'd chosen 5, and strategically 5 servers, as I said, Ukraine, Latvia, Netherlands do not have stringent or do not have for that matter any cyber laws. California and New Jersey had weakest of the cyber laws at that point of time. So that's why he chose those two places also. Why? Because as per US Privacy Act, US citizen data ideally cannot leave US boundary. So to avoid suspicion and connecting frequently to those three servers, he used these two servers. Are we all getting it? His plan? Yeah? Yeah, it is. It is going on. It is going on in spite of you, because what happens, sir, is just offbeat. When a pop-up comes in, we are taking your data, we will not sell that data. We all just click on yes, we don't even read those pop-ups. We don't read the terms and conditions where clearly they are mentioning that they will be using the data for their enhancement. Yeah. Yeah. At that point of time, sir, compared to the other states, the cyber laws when it comes to traceability were not that stringent in these two states as compared to the other states. That's why he chose California and this thing. That's what, na sir, he wanted to not have the pin onto him. He did not want to raise the red flag. And there are, since these two are the IT hubs, the traffic, outgoing traffic to these locations are also high, so no suspicion would have arisen. So for that reason, he chose these two strategically locations. Agreed, sir. Agreed, sir. I don't deny that. Infosys, all your main IT hub is SF, which falls in California. But despite of that, not all the stringent laws are there. I'm not only talking about SF or California as a whole. So A, that was the reason. B, being IT hub, traffic from those locations are more. So chances of an picking up or a suspicion or raising a red flag are much less as compared to any other remote location. Right on? Can I move? Yeah. So this is a case which is happened very much in there. It is just a perception, sir. I would put it that way. It is just over here. The reason why we can get away is because we don't have a law which abides organizations to report a security breach. Over there, you feel it's more stringent for the simple reason because they have a law which makes or abides the companies to report a security breach. And that is why this has been highlighted. Otherwise, this would not have come. In fact, after this case, 4 years after this, a similar case, the same modus operandi was used on another US organization. Agreed, sir. The perpetrator is still behind bars. The punishment is not stopping them from doing the crimes. If you see, maximum of the card crimes are in US, happening in US. I'm not saying no on that, sir. We are no, like you said, it's just this thing. More you do it, the more stringent rules you put in, more the perpetrators are going to find innovative ways of bypassing those laws, trespassing those laws. So it's just the number of hurdles that we can put in, right? Yeah. So, like I said, strategically 5 locations to randomize the locks so that red flags would not be raised. With this, he stole more than 200 million of card information. Now, what did he do with this information? What would we do with this information? Assuming that even there would be a dollar, limit to each of the cards, he now has more than $200 million. So what would you do? Sell the data, all right, to whom? To other hackers. Why would you do that? What would they do of that data? It is surprising to know that the card duplicate industry, or the duplicate card industry, is twice as huge as the card industry itself. In India also and overall also, sir. I'm saying overall globally the duplicate card industry is. So this is an authenticate case, sir. It's a very much, you can look up for this case and get the details. This investigation has been carried out, sir, by the FBI. I'm not speaking of my mind. All these details are available in the FBI, this thing.
FBI is saying that California and New Jersey.
Yes, they have that written. In fact, the phrase, yes, sir, I have the entire quote scripture of this person. I have the quote scripture of this person, sir. Okay, if you want, I can give it to you offline. Right on. So, like I said, he did sell this data and sold it in batches. Where did he sell it? Open market? Underground market, like we know it as the dark net. How did he sell it? One-on-one? No, he did make batches. He sold it in batches. Now these batches were batches made by the near future expirations. So card numbers which had the expiry of 3 to 6 months, he sold them first. Why did he do that? Again, the attack frame, the time frame that he would be giving the attacker or whosoever is buying the card details would be that much. So limited time frame. What has he to do after he gets his money with what the card dealers are doing with? So he sold it in those batches. He sold it in the underground market using the internet relay chat. We use chat messengers, Skypes and Google chats, yes? What is the difference in IRC chat compared to these chats? IRC chats are not logged, meaning I have a chat room, just like our WhatsApp group. If I create a group, I have the sole authority of whom I need to invite or who can be a part of that group. Can someone join that group without my permission? No. So IRC chats are similar to that. They are formed by the owner of the chat room, and who become party to that becomes the, or is the sole permission of the owner of that chat room. The reason why these are more popular underground is because they do not generate or create logs. No server is logging these or keeping the metadata of this information of the transactions. Whereas when you go to Gtalk or Skype, you have to first log in using your user credentials. Yes? So which means that on this date, this time, this person had logged in and this was the chat that was carried out. Google has your entire chat record. I mean, Google is just an example. All the chat providers or services do retain their chat logs. And you yourself are giving them the permission to do that when you click on the terms and services. Retention period for each of the service provider varies. But yes, Google does keep that chat still intact. So if you request from Google for a chat log of 10 years back, it will still be able to provide you if you go through the proper channels. So IRC, there are no chat logs, so there is no way of knowing who all are party to this chat or who the data has been sold to and or who the data seller is or who the data buyer is. So this is pretty popular amongst the hackers. They use this as their underground markets to sell stolen data, which is what our perpetrator did. He sold his data in batches on the IRC chats. This is Mr. Albert Gonzalez, who carried out the entire attack, currently behind bars. And the last two that you read are picked up from his laptop. Starting phase 2, which was nothing but compromising of the web applications, e-commerce portals of these stores. Phase 1 was compromising physically, going physically and compromising the POS. Phase 1 was only known once he was captured. Now we come into the play. How was he captured? He ran his operation for nearly 18 months and then was captured. How many of us actually go through line by line? I'm sure you are CS, so you would be used to going through line by line. Our credit card bills or our telephone bills? All of us? Most of us? Yes? What is it that flashes the eye? Any huge transaction? Typically. Yes? Any small transaction do we, wreck our brains onto? Kiya hoga. Somewhere I must have swiped it. Right? We often let that go by. So now there was this gentleman who found a discrepancy in his bill, and he went to the bank there and said that this is the transaction which I have not made. It was a transaction that he had, or that reflected that he has made onto the website of TJX. But he said that I have not visited TJX in this duration altogether because I was not in town at all. So an analysis is carried out. The bank says, okay, if you're reporting it as a fraud transaction, then we will have to get into it. So the bank asks TJX to give its records for that particular day, and they try to identify from that records whether the IP address of this gentleman is there or not. So when they need the IP addresses for a particular day, they need to also contact the service provider, internet service provider of this gentleman to get their logs and verify that at that day, on that day, what IP was belonging to this gentleman. So when they try to get an same IP, it does not reflect in the TJX records at that point of time for that transaction that day at all. So they go further into it. TJX also gets into the analysis, and they find that, oh, their server has been compromised, breach. There is a program running onto the server which is constantly sniffing the card information. and passing on to these servers. Further, when the FBI went to get the information about these servers, who owns these servers vis-a-vis, they found that the name, address of the owners of these servers were fake. Now, if I were to promptly right now tell you, give me a fake name and an address, would we immediately be able to give in? Which is completely fake and completely, no. Ideally, no, we would take time to generate a fake, and that, even if we take time, that fake generation will not be a total fake. It will resemble somewhere something. Either the name will be a permutation combination of someone whom we know, or would be something what we are aware of, or something that we know about. So same thing, same logic the FBI analysts applied onto this 5 servers information and tried to get a physical location which is actually into existence by permuting and combining these fake addresses. It turned out that they had laid their hands onto the address of one of the perpetrators, one of his accomplices, who in plea deal gave up the other accomplice and Albert Gonzalez. But both these accomplices did not know where Albert Gonzalez is. They did not know physically where he stays. So a data analysis, forensics analysis of these, both of these accomplices' computers was carried out, and they found a common IP. Again, the ISP was contacted and known, or they were requested to give the location of this IP address. And that's how he was traced back. And that's how he was caught. So over here, we've seen all the aspects or all the types of typical types of digital forensics: disk analysis, log analysis, ISP analysis, that is internet analysis. Only thing that is remaining in this or was not carried out in this is something known as mail analysis, email analysis. But overall, major part of my digital forensics activity was carried out in this case. And like I said earlier also, the same modus operandi, the same program was reused in 2012 on the organization Target. And there also nearly 5 lakh of card information was stolen in the same manner. The reason why we know this, like I earlier also said, is these guys need to get public. Now, the impact of this data breach that TJX had faced was this: 24 million to MasterCard for losing MasterCard numbers, 41 to Visa, and 200 million as a penalty. Now, this was after PCI DSS's insurance. We've heard of PCI DSS? Yeah? Right on. So whenever we get a card, the bank says that your card is insured up to 50,000 of fraudulent transaction, right? For the first year, certain banks give it for free. Then they say that, okay, for an annual charge of some amount, you can insure your card. Yes or no? Yeah. So that insurance is nothing but the PCI insurance that they are offering. Now, if at all a fraudulent transaction or a data breach happens, if the merchant who is using this or who is responsible for the data breach is PCI DSS certified, they get an insurance from the PCI. They do not need, or they need not pay that much of amount. So TJX was PCI DSS certified, and this amount or this figure is after the insurance of PCI. Target, in spite of losing less number of information, card information, had to pay a bit more than these figures because it was not PCI DSS certified. PCI DSS on the fly changed PCI DSS version 2.1, introduced version 2.1, where it categorically stated that if card information is going through wireless network, it needs to go through WPA2. Often when we connect to a Wi-Fi, we get WPA2, WEP open, right? TJX, Hannaford, 7-Eleven were all using WEP. Now WEP predominantly is vulnerable, has certain weaknesses, whereby allowing someone to intercept or interpret the flowing data. That's why they said WPA, WPA2. Use that, but no WEP. That was the change that was brought. Overnight this was done in, so every merchant was given time frame to comply to, but that time frame was also very short. Now, when we speak of digital forensics, like I said, the types of digital forensics typically constrained to disk analysis, log analysis, that is your metadata analysis. Now these logs could be anywhere, could be onto the system, could be onto your routers, your network perimeters. It could be your firewall logs. So in general, the metadata analysis, we term it as log analysis. Typically, we get maximum of our information from this metadata. We understand a lot of how it was done from this metadata. Like another example, if I were to give, we were doing a case for a realty organization who was dealing in reality, and they suspected of their marketing manager being in hands with the buyers, taking under the table and dealing at a discounted rates so that he could get his piece of cake. But they didn't have any proof to prove this. So they said that we need some digital evidence backing it. So can we carry out a digital forensics analysis? We said, okay. But for that, we'll need the disk of this person, hard disk of this person. So when the hard drive had come to us, we analyzed it. The first thing that we do is create a bit by bit image of this evidence. Now, it is not a simple Control A, Control C, Control V, that is copy paste. It is the zeros and ones that are there onto the hard drive. The same zeros and ones are copied onto the forensic drive. A, owing to the Evidence Act, that you could not tamper with the evidence. B, also that we want to unhide or undelete the deleted data. Now, when you delete a file, how do you delete a file? Shift delete. Does that delete entirely? But does it delete entirely on that drive? No, there is still data there. It only what it deletes is the reference pointing to that data. It's like from the index page, you are erasing that line where it says that this file abc.xls is located at page 10. You're just deleting that entry. but you're not deleting the actual file. So that file is still recoverable unless it is overwritten. So unless I rewrite on that space of my drive, my file is very much there. I can retrieve that file. So in order to retrieve that file or the deleted files, we do a disk imaging. This is the longest process in our forensics analysis because we only have to see those copying movements happening. Once this is done, we go for entire analysis of that evidence that we have. What is there? We do sometimes keyword searches. What are keyword searches? During the course of your I would say analysis or investigation, you would have come across certain keywords like certain transaction party, a certain number, or certain type of file that you're looking for. So that is what we search and analyze, that how much more or what is there based on this keyword present in the hard drive. Like in this case of the realty person, realty manager, we were given the keywords of transacting parties whom the management thought that he's involved with. But when the drive came to us and when we imaged it, we found that the image is blank. The last entry in the metadata that was being shown was of a hard drive wipe command. That was the last entry in the metadata that was shown. So we were surprised that how did the perpetrator get to know that his hard drive is going to be taken. So it is either that the perpetrator had known about the investigation, or the IT person who had gone and collected was somehow involved, or it was a genuine human error in providing us with the evidence. So we wanted to know that. So we contacted the management and arranged for a meeting with the IT person. He said that, ma'am, 6 बजे वो गया, मैंने दूसरा हार्ड ड्राइव पे उसका इमेज जो भी है उसका डेटा वो कॉपी किया, और 9 बजे मैं ऑफिस से निकल के I came back to Bombay. The person was in Delhi. So I was like, okay, so then why is this drive showing me a wipe metadata, wipe command, which was executed, at 7 o'clock. So after you've copied your data onto the other drive, you've attempted a wipe. And that wipe was not attempted once. It was later found that the wipe was attempted multiple times, so that the data is completely irrecoverable. Later on, he confessed that he had overwritten this data on the hard drive with media files n number of times and then erased the hard drive with zeros and ones, bit values. That's why the only entry that was reflected in the metadata was a hard drive wipe entry, and none of the data was recoverable. Otherwise, if you format nearly 15 to 20 times, still the data is recoverable. So the best way of getting rid of unwanted information is to overwrite it with heavy media file and delete that later. So that is what he had done. It makes it difficult for us to have a complete recovery of data. At times, even partial recovery is not possible of that data because of this overwriting mechanism. So that's the biggest challenge we face as digital forensics experts. The other challenge that we face is the time frame. By the time a fraud or a data breach is detected, my evidence, since it's so volatile, tends to get disrupted or overwritten. So we cannot provide a thorough analysis. When we do the report writing, it is based on what evidence tells us. So it is either a true or a false, because a particular piece of information can either be there present in the hard drive or it cannot be there on the hard drive. So it is never a gray matter for us. It's always a black and a white. We may not be able to conclude, yes, whether the perpetrator is actually culprit or not. No, that is not our lookout. We can only speak what the evidence is telling us or giving us the information. Now, how can we retain this evidence to the max, to the fullest? A, by leaving it in the state of as is. Meaning, if you suspect someone of carrying out a fraud or party to a fraud, ensure that the physical hard drive of that person is taken and replaced. Don't do anything other than that. If there is a breach in terms of virus or malware, leave the system again as is, unplug it from the network, that's all. Because there is something like the live data in your RAMs which could be critical to us. So if it is turned off, let it be off. If it is turned on, let it be on. Don't disturb the state of the system. A. B. The moment you find or moment you feel that a perpetrator, this or this person could be the perpetrator, replace the main digital evidence, that is the hard drive. Retain that. And ensure that it is not exposed to magnetic fields. Because the best way of getting rid of hard drives is exposing them to magnetic fields, that is degaussing them. So that's how the evidences can be retained. Now, how do we ensure that we as experts are actually dealing with the evidence, or it has not been tampered en route before it has come to us? We take something known as the chain of custody, COC. Now, in this COC, we put in what is the type of the file what is the evidence that has come in, the serial number of this evidence. Each of your digital evidence has a serial number with which it can be identified. Even your pen drives have a serial number. Even your mobiles have a unique number, which is your IMEI numbers. So each of the digital evidence has a unique way of its identification. For our purpose, we will term it as the serial numbers. So we take down that serial number, the make of the evidence, whether it's a hard drive, or if it's a hard drive, then from which make is the hard drive, is it a Seagate or a whatever XYZ manufacturer of that. When time and date, time goes up to milliseconds, was it actually confiscated, and when did we receive it? So the person parting with the evidence will sign it that this was the time frame when they received it, and in presence of so and so person. When it comes to our lab, we will put in the timestamp that okay, on 12th December 7:08:15 seconds, the hard drive or the evidence has come with us, and we are now starting with the digital analysis. So this is the COC. Why is it more critical for us or for any of the your part of your investigation is, any point of time, if a question arises that this was found on the hard drive, the first thing that we do is, or this part of information was found, we see when was the A, the last creation time, the modification time of that data. If that is after its confiscation, which ideally should not be, then definitely the evidence has been tampered with. So in our report, we have to mention it that when we had got it, the evidence was reflecting this. Ideally, I would say it is we've never come across, barring one instance where something of this has happened. Because usually we ourselves prefer to go and collect the evidence considering the volatile nature. But if at all someone else is doing that for us, the COC still stands the same stature. They have to sign it and we sign it when it's come to us. That's about the COC. Now, how do we, in the court of law, decide, or how do we present that whatever analysis we've carried out is actually on that piece of evidence, is on that hard drive, it's that pen drive or those logs? Anyone can question, now what is the authenticity of your report? You're saying that this piece of file or this piece of information was found onto the hard drive. Then what is the guarantee that it was the evidence that you're speaking of? So post our imaging step, we take a hash value of the data that is present onto the digital evidence and the data that is present onto our forensic drive. If those hashes match, in the court of law, I need not prove the authenticity of my analysis. So those hash matching is another critical junction in our analysis. If the hashes do not match, we first attempt a re-image, because there could be certain bad sectors onto the evidence file, evidence drive, which could have been missed by our utilities, by our tools. So we do a re-image pertaining. But even though if we are re-imaging, that is also going to be a part of our report. That for this reason we had to re-image, and the mismatch snapshot of the hashes are also a part of the report. Once the authenticity is observed, the report stands true to any court of law. The court of law also asks the tools that have been used. So the famous tools that we use for our analysis are NCASE from Guidance Software, Helic, Paraben softwares for steg analysis. Nowadays, this steganography is taking a lot of, I would say it's gaining a lot of momentum. What is steganography? I will jump the slides. Anyone? Steganography. We've heard of the term steganography, cryptography. Okay, cryptography is I am playing with my text. I change my way of writing to add a mathematical formula and get something which is on face appearing garbage. Steganography is the same thing, but it deals with media files. I hide my information within an image file or an audio file or a video file. The entire 9/11 attack was based on steganography. If you put the flight number in your notepad and change the font to Wing Ding, there's a font, then you will see an airplane two towers, and a danger sign. If you fold the $100 bill in a certain manner, you will get the shape of the Pentagon after the attack. A lot of corporate espionages are happening through good morning messages. On face, it's a simple greeting, good morning. But embedded in that face or the image is critical organizational data, sales data. My entire, I would say, revenue data. Within a simple image, a small image file, or I would say within one notepad text file, I can embed 5 of Shakespeare's plays. But on face, it is still a notepad. A simple good morning, hello all. We come across such steganography. When we analyze that, that is the steg analysis, in terms for corporate espionages a lot. We find critical, sensitive organizational data embedded in image files which go out, your audio files. A lot of times we were asked that, Mauli, please find out steg is there or not. Or we were said that if you find more of images, do let us know. So we understand, okay, we will go to hunt for steg analysis. A lot of time we find nearly half of the hard drive is full with audio files. And the audio files are considerably heavier. Size of the audio file is larger as compared to a normal audio file. So that's where the trigger goes, that this could be a steg. So the best utility or tool for steg analysis is Parabin. The same goes with your mobile analysis. Nowadays, the digital evidence is so vast spread that to pinpoint becomes very difficult for us. B, a lot of organizations even today do not have a documented policy and allows the employees to get in their devices. Something known as BYOD, bring your own device. A lot of organizations do not have that, which is actually handcuffing us. Tomorrow, if per se you are held perpetrator and I want to check your smartphone for evidence, I cannot. Because the organization has no such policy or document signed stating that in case the organization needs, the organization will review your device. That device could be your mobile device, could be your pen drive, could be your portable hard drive, could be any device that you get. The sizes of storage devices have shrunken to our imagination. I mean, you can have your USB now store up to 1 terabytes. So I don't need that big bimbo portable hard drive also now. All I need is this small device I can plug in, and they come in various sizes and shapes and take and go. So what also helps us prevent the fraud is considerable organization policies, documentations, policies and procedures. These are ways of avoiding frauds. Right? Apart from this, as I said, what we do is, in a gist, I have told you all what we do. So analysis is the main part of it. Before analysis, what we do is the imaging bit. So the moment the data is with us, the information is with us, that very moment, we start our analysis in terms of imaging and COC. Right on? Yeah, that's about digital forensics. Since everything, like I said earlier also, that is going digital, a bit of understanding of this topic is of relevance to us so that A, we do not tamper with the evidence, make my life a little more easy. B, we also know how we can prevent it and how do we do it. Right on, any questions we have? No? Yeah. Can I show it to you offline? Because the only thing with steganography is that I would need the same utility to unhide my information. So I need the same. It's like a secret message that we share. So when I send you a good morning message, you only know that, okay, she sent a good morning message which has the data.
Check this mic, check.
As analysis bit, what we do is we go into the metadata of it, we check the header of it, and we pinpoint, okay, this is the steg image. I will show it to you offline, right? Anything else we would want to say or no? Understand? Yeah? Can we rest?
Hello.
Yeah. Thank you so much.